I find shelter beneath the way, undercover, hide away. Can you hear when I say I have never felt this way?
I stood in Gideon's bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. I don't know how long I've been here, and I don't know how much longer I could hide before he came for me. I wrapped my arms around myself. I was wearing one of Señorita Bonita's nighttime creations, and I was having a full-out panic attack. I have never in my life worn anything like this. It went against everything I was raised to believe. It's not that I never imagined I would one day wear lingerie. It's just that I always thought it would be for my husband. Daddy, why aren't you here for me? My daddy was always there for me. I didn't know how to handle these high-stress situations on my own. What was I supposed to do? Just walk out there for Gideon to see me wearing next to nothing? And what? Will he take something that should be a gift for my husband? I shook my head. I couldn't do it. I crouched down in front of the sink, hugging my knees to my chest, trying to take deep, calming breaths. Come on, Safia. If you don't do what he wants, he's going to put chains on you. I wiped away a tear that escaped from my eye. I don't know what I was more afraid of. Him and the things he wanted to do to me, or my response to the things he wanted to do to me. I had never lost control like I had done today in that dressing parlor. He had made me do things and say things that were so out of my character. I had begged for a release of the pressure he had caused to build up in me. He had been like a storm that had washed over me, consuming me completely. I shook my head. I couldn't allow that to happen again. I had to try to get out of this with as much of me still intact, including my virginity. It was a gift for my husband. My body was a gift for my husband, not for a cold-blooded, heartless killer that would not even appreciate it before he moved on to the next, as Mistress Elena said, pretty face. But what was I supposed to do? I'm a slave here, kidnapped and taken against my will. And he was the boss, the master, as all the locals called him. What should I do? Safia, he said from the other side of the door. More tears came to my eyes as I looked up at it. I cried softly. Why are you crying? I wiped at the tears. Because he turned the knob, opening the door. He looked down at me with narrow eyes before he came in, squatting in front of me, his big body blocking out the rest of the bathroom. Because what? He reached up his thumb to wipe away my tears. I turned to stare down at the floor, feeling exposed and scared out of my mind. Are you shaking? He asked, gently pulling my lock back over my shoulder. I shook my head, but it was a lie. I was doing more than shaking. I was freaking out. Come here, baby, he said before he scooped me up off the floor and into his arms. I buried my head in his neck, wrapping my arms around it tightly. My daddy used to hold me like this when I was a little girl, afraid of something or another. I was surprised to see that, just like when my daddy used to hold me, I felt safe, here, in Gideon's big strong arms. It felt like I was protected from everything, including him. He carried me past the bed and through the French doors that led to his private balcony. He sat with me in his lap in one of the lounging chairs. Gently, he stroked my hair. "Don't be afraid, mi princesita." He spoke softly. My head was still buried in his neck, and my arms still wrapped tight around it. "Why are you so afraid? I won't hurt you." "I know, I just have never been with a man before." He chuckled. "I can't understand you. You're gonna have to come out of your hiding spot." I lifted my head, wiping away my tears. "I've never been with a man before," I whispered. He looked surprised. "How old are you, baby?" 28. He looked off into the distance before looking back at me. "How is it possible you're a 28-year-old virgin?" It was my turn to chuckle. "It's a part of my culture." He looked confused. "You're from Chicago, right?" I laughed. "Yeah, but Chicago ain't my culture, just like the Dominican Republic ain't yours." "How do you know what your culture is? How do you know what mine is? We were slaves, right? Before that, Africans." I nodded. "Yeah, but we had a culture. We wasn't just Africans. We were Hebrews before we became Africans." "Me too?" he asked, bringing his hand up to his chest. "Yeah, you too." He frowned at me. "How do you know that? Or is that just something your daddy told you?" I stared at him for a minute. Something became clear to me. Gideon had a problem with my daddy. Yes, that is something my daddy told me, but it is also something I have read and studied extensively. He looked at me for a minute, in that special way he had of looking at me. He looked at my face, my hair, my neck. He reached up and gently pushed the lock that was in my face behind my ear. "Oh yeah? And what did you find out?" I smiled. "We are descendants of those great men you read about in the Bible." He looked at me with doubt. "Oh, right, okay. You one of those." My mouth opened at the insult. I sat up straight on his lap, forgetting all about my shyness. "One of what?" He chuckled. "One of those crazy Bible swinging people." My mouth dropped. "Oh yeah?" I asked him, folding my arms across my chest. "Well, explain your strength." I had him. He opened his mouth and then closed it, looking thoughtful. I raised my hand in the air. Ooh, pick me, teacher. I can explain it." His eyes narrowed. I had his complete attention. "Explain it then." He sat up on the lounge chair, placing me on it in front of him so that he could see me completely. I folded my legs Indian style, sitting between his open legs. Oh yeah, I had his complete attention. "Did you know that you're not the first of your kind?" I asked him. He shook his head. "Nah, I've always thought I was some kind of freak." I frowned at him. At this very moment, he looked so much like his son, who had said something very similar to me yesterday. The healer in me caused me to raise my hand and gently stroke his cheek, his full beard feeling soft underneath my palm. "No, Gideon, you're not a freak. We read about your strength in a few of our early ancestors. Just to name a few, Reuben, Simeon, Yehuda. They were the sons of Jacob, later to be called Yisrael. And then there was Ephraim, who was his grandson. And I guess the most famous of our ancestors with that freakishly strength was Samson." His mouth dropped open. "The Samson?" Are you telling me that what went on with Samson is what's going on with me? He put his hand on his chest. I chuckled. Why do you find that hard to believe? He reclined his big body back in the lounge chair, lifting his arms, resting them behind his head. I don't know, but I guess that would explain a couple of things, though. Now he had my attention. What things? I asked. When I was a kid living in Washington Heights, I used to see this old homeless dude sometimes. And he would always look at me funny, you know what I mean? But this dude never wore no shoes. I mean, never. And you know how cold it can get in New York in the winter. Anyway, one day he says to me, "Come here, boy." When I get there, he tells me to stop cutting my hair and to stop eating certain things. Pork, grapes, catfish, shrimp, lobster, and some other things. I say, why? He says, if I do these things, I will become strong enough to stop people from hurting me. So yeah, I do what he say. And on my 8th birthday, I picked up a car. He chuckled, rubbing his hand down his face. I can remember tripping out. He shook his head. After that, everything changed for me. I got so reckless. I laughed. So did some of your ancestors, I told him. You should do a little research. You might be amazed at what you find out. He sat up. Let's say I did want to find out. He picked at some invisible length of his pants. Where would I start? He asked the question quietly. I smiled. You know that book you went and dug up from the very bottom of everything you own? One side of his mouth lifted in a grin. It wasn't buried that deep. It was like right on top of my shelf. I laughed. Yeah, right. Anyway, that is the perfect place to start. Because, and this is just my opinion, but you should probably first find out who is the source of your strength and why it was given to you. He looked thoughtful. Why do you think it was given to me? I held up my hand, shaking my head at him. Hey, big guy, who am I to know? You got to search for yourself. Your gift, your responsibility. And I'll find the answers in the Bible, he added. I smiled. Brother, you'll be amazed at what you find there. It's like a real good friend of mine say, it's all there like ragu. My head fell back as I laughed at that. Sarah, one of the coaches that came to our house on the Shabbat to fellowship, always says that. And every time she do, it just tickles me to death. He looked at me in that way again. That way that made me feel strange. The smile left my face. Maybe I will, he told me. His gaze traveling from my eyes to my throat, to my breast, that nightgown did very little to cover, then lower to my stomach, then lower. Right then I realized the air of sitting facing him with my legs crossed like this, with this nightgown on. I think I found one thing I can thank your father for, he said. What's that? I inhaled. As my surroundings began to stand out to me, we sat on the private balcony with a perfect view of the night sky that was full of stars. The moon was only half full, but it brightened the sky beautifully. The sound of the forest coming alive at night time as animals hunted for their food served as a very sensual soundtrack. He looked at me with hungry eyes, and it made me feel empowered. I didn't feel scared anymore. I felt desired. If I saw him, I would thank him for keeping you untouched. It does something to a man to know that his kiss was the kiss that awakened you. His touch. He sat closer, bringing his big hands to my knees and caressed up to my thighs where he began to gently rub. His touch will be what makes you want. He leaned in and began to kiss my ear. His tongue. I moaned when he took my earlobe into his mouth, gently biting it, before coming back licking where he had bit. Will be what you would come to crave. Then he was kissing me. Oh my world, I was lost. Needless to say, that night didn't turn out as bad as I had been expecting. He kissed me on the balcony until the moon hung low in the sky, leaving my lips deliciously sore. Then he carried me back into his bedroom and laid me in the bed. He disappeared into his closet and came back out wearing a pair of black pajama bottoms. When he got into the bed, he pulled me close so that I half laid on him, my head resting against his chest. He picked up my hand and put it on his chiseled stomach. Touch me with your healing hands, baby. Pray for me. Do that thing you did last night. I smiled, closing my eyes. Dear Abaya, if it's your will, Father, please use my hands to heal. I rubbed up his stomach. Speak, baby. Wow, I thought he was upset about last night, and here he wanted me to do it again. I scooted up his big body so that my mouth was right by his ear. My head rested on the pillow next to him. I rubbed my hand slowly across his chest and down his arm and back up again. For every matter there is an appointed time, I began speaking softly in his ear. Even a time for every pursuit underneath the heavens. His arm came up around my waist and he held me close. A time to be born and a time to die, I continued. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to soothe. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time for love and a time to hate. A time for battle and a time for peace. Moments later, we were both fast asleep. The next morning, I came awake feeling good. For the first time in about 2 weeks, I was in a nice, soft bed and not stone or the floor. My eyes flew open and I sat straight up in the bed. Gideon was gone. The clock on the wall said it was 10 o'clock. Oh man, I flew out of the bed, standing there in the middle of the floor. It took my mind a minute to wake up completely. I know it was something I needed to do. I looked around the quiet room. Why had he let me sleep? Mistress Elena said that the household servants started moving at around 4 a.m. I looked around. I needed clothes. I went into his closet. Maybe I could put on something of his until I got downstairs to my stuff. At least, I think that's where my stuff was. Honestly, I had no idea. Señorita Bonita said she was sending me back with some things, but I never even saw them get put in the truck. After we had left the seamstress yesterday, Gideon had taken me to a really nice restaurant that served the best roast fish I had ever tasted. As we ate, he told me it was the only restaurant he ate from, and that was only because it was his restaurant, and another one of his aunts ran the kitchen. I turned the light on in the closet, and the breath whooshed out of my body. My stuff was here, hanging in his closet. The shoes he had got me yesterday stacked neatly on a shoe rack. Wow, what the world did that mean? I chose a yellow skirt and a white top. All the things he had got me were all too nice to really clean in, especially like a barn. I took my things into the bathroom so that I could grab a quick shower. But when I got there, I brought my hand up to my mouth shocked. Sometime between when I woke up and when I went to sleep, someone had come in and stocked his bathroom with ladies' shampoo and conditioner, ladies' body wash, soap, powder, perfumes. What the world? There was even an extra toothbrush. I decided to skip the shower and run me a bath. 'Cause, yeah, lavender bubbling oil surely changes one perspective. And he had a nice big tub in his nice big bathroom. So yeah, I soaked. I even washed my hair. And it was during my bath that I discovered something on my shackles that I had not seen yesterday. Finally engraved in each of them was a word. It said, Gideon's. I shook my head, trying again to remove them. I rubbed my wrist with soap and tried to slide it off. Nothing. The bastard had gotten his name engraved in my shackles. That just made it so much worse. My bath was ruined. The thrill was gone. I guess shackles could have that effect on someone. Even if they were golden and quite pretty, still shackles. However, a little of the thrill came back when I saw that along with the other toiletries that had been brought here was witch hazel and sea breeze. Oh, how did he know? I took my time getting dressed because I had so many things to work with now. After I was dressed, I put on a little lip gloss. Yeah, there was even lip gloss. And I chose to leave off the shoes because although my shackles on my ankle were quite soft, it still felt better if I went barefoot. I left out of the room and made my way to the kitchen. Ema was there peeling potatoes. I smiled at her. Well, look at you. You're just glowing this morning, she told me. I walked to her, kissing her cheek. Thank you, Ema. Do you know if Dawid had got anything to eat yet? I know I'm late, but if not, I'll just take him something now. Oh, he ate at about 7:30 this morning with the other men. Oh, okay, thanks. And I haven't forgotten about your tea. I had the things I needed, and then, well, they kind of got lost. So, I'll go back and gather some more things. Then I'll make it up for you, okay? She nodded, smiling at me. I made to walk down the stairs to the service hall, but she stopped me. He's not there, sweetheart. I frowned, turning to look at her. Where is he? She nodded her head towards the entrance hall door. On the field, training with the other men. What? I screeched. He's healing from a gun wound. I flew out the kitchen and through the big dining hall, through the living space and out the entrance door. Way across the yard, I spotted that fat guard from the dungeon. Hey, I said to him, grabbing his arm. His eyes raked up and down my body. Oh, he said with a lecherous smile on his face. I waved away his nonsense. More pressing issues were on my mind. Where's the training field? I asked. He pointed down the hill. I didn't wait. I flew that way. Images of Dawid getting hurt filling my vision. Why would he be on the field training with Gideon and his men? I could hear drums. Frowning, I ran faster. I followed the sound through the trees. When I broke through, I came up short at the sight in front of me. The training field. It was huge. There were several what looked like obstacle courses. There was what looked like an abandoned building that was like riddled with bullet holes. My eyes followed the drum to an area on the field that looked like it was set up for hand-to-hand combat. There was about 40 men there. Some of them were shirtless, some of them wore tank tops or t-shirts, but they all were wearing white karate pants with blue belts tied around their waists, including Gideon, Dawid, and Monroe. All three of them were shirtless. Dawid with a huge bandage on the side of his torso. Around them were several men with instruments, drums, and some other things I didn't recognize. There was one older man singing in what sounded like Spanish, but not quite. I had seen this fighting style before. It's called capoeira. I had saw some people doing it on the lake some years ago. It is said that the slaves in Brazil and in the Caribbean used to practice this martial art form right underneath their white master's nose. And because it looked so much like a dance, their masters was none the wiser. But the guys I saw doing it had nothing on Gideon. He was demonstrating something for Dawid and Monroe, who watched him closely. He moved with such strength and agility. As he moved, he instructed them. And when he stopped, Dawid and Monroe faced each other, moving, doing what the guy in the lake told my father and I was called the jinga, to the beat of the drums. Dawid went back on his arm, kicking up. Monroe jumped in the air, going into a backflip, dodging his kick. When he came down, he went down and did a turning sweep. Dawid did a no-hands cartwheel, dodging the sweep. Gideon squatted down on the side of them, watching them closely. I could see him moving his mouth, instructing them on what to do next. He reminded me so much of Lion at that moment. Monroe was good at this. Dawid, not so much. As far as I knew, Lion did not train in capoeira, which means this was probably Dawid's first time. He didn't look bad though. Shoot, if I knew my nephew, he would become obsessed with this until he mastered it. Gideon stopped them both and instructed them on something else. He must have asked them to follow his direction because they began to move and do what he was doing. He made it look so easy. His strong muscles flexed as he went down on his hand, bringing his legs up in the air, then seeming to glide down using one arm to sweep his legs around, and then went back up into the air, but this time on one arm. He did something with his legs before sharply curving his body so that he could deliver a deadly kick to his invisible opponent. Monroe mirrored him perfectly. Dawid, still needed work, but dag, it wasn't bad for his first time. A lot better than what I would have done. Shoot, and that's just seeing if I was able to stand upside down on my arms without falling on my face. When he finished, he motioned for the two boys to pair off again. His other men stood around watching them. Dawid and Monroe did the jinga, and then in the flash of an eye, Monroe went up into the air and did a sideways turn and then came down, kicking Dawid, sending him flying back. Oh no! I flew down a hill to where Dawid lay on the ground. Dawid, baby, are you okay? I asked, dropping to my knees, putting my hand on his bandage. Why are you fighting? It's too soon, I told him, rubbing my hand through his locks, trying to see how much damage he had done to himself. I'm alright, Doda, he said, trying to push my hand away. No, you're not, I told him in a stern voice. Sophia! Gideon growled from behind me. Get off my field! I turned angry eyes up at him. No problem. Come on, Dawid. I tried to help him to his feet. Gideon grabbed my arm. Not hard that it hurt, but hard enough to get my full attention, and pulled me away from Dawid. Let me go, I yelled at him. No, get off my field, he yelled back. Not without Dawid. I folded my arms across my chest, staring at him. Sophia, stop babying the damn boy and let him be a man. Do you think you're going to be there for him his whole life? To make him feel better every time he get a boo-boo? He's not a man. He's a boy. And so is Monroe. And sometimes they need somebody to baby them. No, they don't. What they need is for you to get off the field. He was just shot 2 weeks ago. and you got him out here fighting. That is dumb, and so are you. His nostrils flared as he angrily looked down at me, and then suddenly he dipped, scooping me up over his shoulder. "Put me down, jerk!" I cried. He turned to look back at his men. "Lee, take over for me for a minute. See if you can get that kid to learn how to finish." He nodded toward Dawid, and then he ran up the hill with me on his back. He ate up the ground with his powerful long strides, crossing the front yard, around the back of the house, back down the hill and through the trees. "Where are you taking me?" I yelled. I had come this way before. We were going towards the river. He kept walking until he got to the river. He stopped, and the next thing I knew, I was being lifted, tossed, flying through the air and into the river. Son of a... I thrashed around in the water trying to gain my footing. When I stood, it was to see his back as he turned and walked back up the hill to his stupid field. Y'all, I stood there in that water, steaming mad. I wanted to kill him. As I made my way back into the house and up the stairs to his room, I thought of all the ways I wanted to kill him. I threw open the closet door and dripped in. However, I came up short at the sight of Mistress Elena standing there in front of my clothes. She had the hem of one of my dresses in her hand, rubbing it gently on her cheek. Oh, designs by Señorita Bonita. She held the hem in her hand, looking down at it. I have been Gideon's mistress for 3 years. And you know, he has never taken me to Señorita Bonita's parlor. Her clothes are so expensive, but every girl on the island dreams of owning something of hers, even if it's just a cameo. But alas, it seems her clothes are only for the very special. She turned to look at me then, hate dripping from her eyes, like the river water was dripping from my body. I have been Gideon's mistress for 3 years, and he has never allowed me to stay in this room overnight. She shook her head. Just wham bam, get out ma'am, so I can sleep. A crazed laugh came through her unsmiling lips. But look, she held up her hand towards my clothes. Not only did you sleep here, your clothes are in his closet, next to his. In the bathroom is your perfumes and your toothbrush. At first, I tried to think of ways to kill you. And then a far more simpler idea came to me. You see, it will be in my best interest to help you and that punk kid escape. What? I asked, not even beginning to believe my good fortune. You heard me. I'm going to help you get as far away from here as possible and back to America. Tears came to my eyes as I put my hands together in front of my lips. Thank you. Thank you so much. She held up her hand. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. She walked past me to leave the closet. When she got to the door, she turned around. Gideon and his men go into town every Wednesday to give little poor boys free fighting lessons. That's today, I told her. She pasted a fake smile on her face. Wow, you're smart as well as pretty. Okay, I didn't say anything else. I didn't want to make her mad, and she changed her mind. They're going to leave shortly after their training. You're going to need money or something to sell, so I would suggest you take a couple of those watches over there. She pointed to Gideon's gold watches that were stacked neatly on the shelf. Wait, you want me to steal? Instantly, my being cried out against that action. Girl, he ain't gonna miss that. He probably won't even notice they're gone. She put her hand on her hip, anger flashing from her eyes. Look, Do you want to get back to America or not? I nodded. Well, then you're going to need some money or something to trade. She looked down at my body in a lewd way. No, she didn't. Well, I ain't trading that, I told her. She smiled. I didn't think so. Grab the watches. You and the boy be at the west gate 1 hour after the fellas leave. I'm going to make sure those cameras over there are turned off. I'm going to also make sure the guard there is busy. There will be a car waiting for you down the road away from the gate. Gideon has cameras everywhere. I can't turn them all off without looking suspicious. My driver will take you into the city. After that, you're on your own. She waved her hand. That will be just fine. I was so happy I almost started jumping up and down. Wait till I tell Dawid he can be back home with his parents and me with my father safe behind his walls tonight. Oh yes, I wanted to go right now. She looked me up and down. And good riddance. And then she turned and swept out the room.